The Vampire Diaries Season 8, Episode 2, Today Will Be Different. Now this episode is where we really get to see the siren, Cybil, kind of in her full form. They show her, they kind of do the siren thing where they start off with her like swimming in the pool and stuff like that. But I'm really enjoying her as a villain. I think this was a good episode where we get to see like her full power. Initially I mentioned I was excited just because sirens are kind of just like, oh, they're just the pretty women that made people crash boats and stuff. But this is like, she like jumps into people's minds, and they have it where she's like psychically, like people are psychically tied to her. At least Damon and Enzo are for sure, and they can't even go too far because it physically hurts them because they're like her two captives mentally. So they're so psychically linked to her that they can't even get to, they can't even get too far away from her, or it physically starts to hurt them. And I love what they did with this, especially the ending. It was kind of messed up. I mean, they go through this stuff, and I'm like, okay. So Enzo decides, this is the little plan that he has. He has to give some sort of name or whatever. And it's like, alright, this leads to Stefan and Damon's last living, relative who is actually a freaking human. And they go through this process, and it sucks. It wasn't the typical happy ending sort of thing that you might expect from a TV show. And there's just a lot of bad, like the whole episode was just a lot of disaster, because we have, the way everything starts off, it kind of works out fine. And it's like, alright, so Damon and Enzo run into, I can't think of her name, honestly, but, the last, human Salvatore on the freaking planet, at least knowingly on the planet. And she knocks Damon out, and it's like, alright, so I can tell you what's happening. You got to get the heck out of here. They end up running into Stefan and Caroline. And also Bonnie, who's like in the little back room to have the sort of pseudo-dramatic entrance. And we get some pretty good content, I think, out of this, just chance encounter. Because not only do we get, Enzo in like the craziest situation where he's like, I'm struggling to hide any sort of emotion from this crazy siren, so that she doesn't know who to go after. And so he's freaking out, like, I can't be near Bonnie too much. And he's like, look, I want to be with you. And I thought Bonnie was a bit too mad for the situation. Like, the fact that he was under mind control, I think, should have been something that she could actually accept. But she seemed like she was kind of ignoring all the logic and was just really mad at him for not caring about her. And I was thinking, like, she's a little too mad right now, when it's like, I'm literally under mind control. I'm fighting tooth and nail to keep like the 1% of control I even have for myself. So I thought she was a little bit too mad at him in this episode, so that kind of bothered me. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense that she wouldn't understand. Like, everything, like 8 seasons of this show, all the crap they've gone through, and him being under mind control was just like insane for her to comprehend or something. I was like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So that was like the one thing in the whole episode that bothered me. But they have the relationship stuff, and Enzo's fighting to, let her know, like, hey, I don't even want to be around you too much, because I don't want to have too many fresh memories in my head that Cybil can use against me, and, so that she can find you and know what she can use to, actually control me. And the way everything plays out, and Stefan, he's freaking out about Damon, and then they have the interaction after Bonnie flips out and knocks, stabs Enzo with the vervain, so she knocks him out to try to, take him away and get him away from the siren. Then we find out that he can't go too far, so all of that, her freaking out and destroying their whole plan, was a complete waste, because she couldn't even get him away from Cybil. So he has to go back, and then that leads to Cybil knowing about Bonnie, because of course she's like, alright, something was crazy, you've been gone for a super long effing time. And of course this comes after she ends up getting 100% control of Damon, where he was actually gonna, let, I think it was his great niece, or, well, it would be like, great niece, but he was going to let her live. And so of course when she walks out, she gets stabbed by Cybil, and then she dies from that, because Stefan is not able to do anything after Cybil tells him not to move. So he's just frozen looking at her dying, as Caroline is trapped in the hallway, which, that was actually the second thing that bothered me, because I'm like, she could crawl right under that, right under the window, and we've seen it quite a few times where people have run really fast and they run into the sunlight, to get past the window, like it burns them, but we've also seen it where they literally have to stand there to die. It takes a little minute. It's not like they, boom, they explode or something. It takes a little bit of time. And I was like, I don't like this. I think this is dumb that she can't move from this position because the sunlight is on the ring. I was like, that makes no sense whatsoever. She could easily get underneath the windowsill and figure something out. I'm sure she, they can jump really far and everything. They've never really shown that, but they could like jump off of walls and stuff if they wanted to. They have super speed. You can technically, depending on how fast you're moving, you can run up walls and stuff. I know they won't go that far because they haven't done it in 8 seasons, but she could have at least gone under the windowsill and it's like, all right, I got something. I go at least go downstairs and figure something. I was like, find something to just pick up and block the window and then put the ring back on. But instead, she was just trapped there the whole episode. And I'm like, she could easily get out of this. And we've seen it happen where people have like run into fire or run into sunlight to get something, and then they run back and they're like real messed up for a minute, but they heal. And it was like she was in there for like 2 seconds and it was like, oh crap, like it hurt so bad she just couldn't possibly handle it. And I was like, I don't think that makes a lot of sense either. So I was a little disappointed by that as well. But everything just falls apart. She's trapped. Bonnie tries to save Enzo, which she half does, and then it's like, crap, he's so psychically linked, he can't even get away from her. And then Damon, his final little refuge within his subconscious, actually gets taken over by Cybil, and she ends up replacing Elena. And she takes over and it's like, and puts herself in those memories. And she got everything when she went into his subconscious. And it was just like, wow, she took him over 100%, left Stephanie to just look at, this dead family member now, the last living, relative that they had, just stuck watching her die. And then, everyone's just trapped, so we have 2 people 100% mind control now, or at least one 100%. I'm not 100% sure if Cybil left Enzo intact or not, just to torture him, or what the deal was with that ending sequence, but I feel like that makes a lot of sense. She was really mad at him, so I think she might have him under control, but she might give him a little bit of leeway. That sort of control where it's like, I control everything you do, so I'm going to let you, which she kind of does in this episode. They actually show it when she tells the guy to calm down so that he doesn't freak out with all the adrenaline and stuff as he dies. And then she was like, oh, well, if everybody else was freaking out, and she kind of releases that hold on him and she just lets him freak out. So I think that's what she'll do with Enzo, where she'll control him 100%, but once they finally get to Bonnie, she'll be like, alright, check out what's happening, and he'll kind of realize how crappy the situation is. But she'll be exciting. We of course have the other side of this story, which is Alaric, and it turns out that he and his intern can probably find some very interesting content, because she happens to have experience with death and possibly hell. She believes it was hell, but it could be something else too. Like, you never really know. I mean, we've seen an afterlife. It wasn't necessarily hell. It was really more like purgatory, the version of life that they had in this show. Everybody was like still ghosts, kind of staying in the city if they wanted to. So it was more of a purgatory thing. We haven't seen a real heaven or hell inside of the Vampire Diaries, but we might get a little bit of, a little taste of that in this season. But his intern has this experience where she saw this symbol. It was just there, so she has that tattoo now. And they found this item that she believes was forged in hell. So now they're going towards getting, I would assume it's going to be, finding a weapon that can kill a siren. So I think this would probably be like step 1. It looked like a giant tuning fork, which is for music. When they like hit it and it makes a certain sound. That's what it looked like an ancient tuning fork to me. But that might lead them to something else. It might be part of a whole, or who knows how this is going to play out. But that seems, at least at this point to me, that seems to be like our first clue that Alaric's storyline is going to lead to the weapon that will allow them to finally defeat Cybil. But it could simply be to free Damon and Enzo, and then they have to find something totally different to actually kill Cybil. So there are quite a few possibilities there. But I really enjoyed this episode. It had some good emotional content, bunch of craziness. It was just like a devastating episode because nothing went the way it was supposed to. And it was kind of because Bonnie freaked out, and it was like she felt like she had to get Enzo out of there, and that didn't work. You know, Caroline's trapped. Stefan couldn't fight back against both Damon and Cybil, so he's just frozen in place after she talks in his ear, and everything kind of just fell apart. Bonnie didn't get what she wanted. Stefan didn't get what he wanted. He lost, you know, the last living relative he had. He lost, well, the last human relative he had, and then he really lost his brother 100% because now Cybil has 100% control over him. Enzo is now freaking out because, of course, she knows about Bonnie, so there's just a million different things that are going to be happening. But I thought this was a really good second episode. I think I liked this more than I even liked the premiere. I think it was fun to watch because it was so chaotic. I wish, of course, it went better and it was nicer for the characters, but, you know, it's fun, you know, to see kind of some of the crazy devastation and stuff. And they do have some, you know, happy moments in this. Like, we have Stefan actually proposing to Caroline and stuff. So there was some nice stuff in here, and he's like, you know, breaking down walls, and they talk about it, and Caroline assumes early on it's like it's more for stress and stuff like that. And he's like, you know, I took this wall out so the girls can both share a room when they visit and stuff. So they had some nice stuff in there, and he got like an insane diamond ring that it was so shiny the way they did it on purpose. Of course, they had it at a certain angle, but I was like, when they showed it was so shiny, it was like it absorbed the power of the sun and infused it into every little diamond. Because I'm like, that'll make you blind. Like, that was just so shiny. But they're gonna get married, and it seemed like that was, you know, kind of the big thing in the promo, that they're kind of fast tracking this wedding too. I don't know if we're gonna get like a 2 weeks later sort of thing, or they like skip a bunch of time, because, you know, like they do that on TV shows all the time. But I was surprised they were in the promo, and it was a part, I think it was Damon, and he like throws Caroline, and she flew into some wedding dresses. I was like, oh, I didn't think they'd be like fast tracking the wedding like that and doing it, or at least trying to do it like in the next episode. They're talking about who they should invite and how the wedding's gonna go, and their wedding dresses in the promo. I was like, that was way faster than I was expecting. I thought, you know, they kind of do like a half and half thing, like just plan it out and just try to get things good so everyone can actually be at the wedding. But they're just like, nope, fast track it, let's do it now, and get dresses, get this, do parties, do that. Of course, Damon shows up, so who knows how this is going to play out, but it should be an interesting wedding episode for sure. That'll be something to see. But I certainly enjoyed this episode. Definitely want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. And now that Cybil has complete control over Damon, and has, I mean, she might not even take complete control over Enzo just to torture him. I want to know how you guys think that's going to play out. Because now she has her 100% puppet in Damon, who she can use if she feels like she's tired of Enzo. She'll just have Damon get rid of him. You know, like, that's the simplest thing she can do. It's like, alright, well, do that. Or she'll have him, like, take his ring off or something. I mean, that's still, like, their big weakness, which I always find, like, no one ever utilizes that nearly as much. I feel like there's so many situations where it's like they kind of do it in this one when it's like, yo, let me just take your ring off or whatever. But nobody ever, like, chops their hands off or anything like that. And it's like, man, 8 seasons, and I feel like they've only utilized the ring thing, I don't know, 5 to 10 times, which is just not a lot compared to, you know, considering, like, everyone that they fight is always vampires versus vampires. Everybody's got rings on, and the only people that ever die with rings are the people that kept coming back to life, like Alaric and Matt. But I want to know your theories on how things are going to play out now that Cybil has control of Damon, and now that she knows who Bonnie is, how that's going to play out. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.